Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of newer content that's going to be hard to do. I mean, if that's not your priority, if your priority is just I want to get to 70 and then I'll build the best ships there and worry about it later, like can you still muddle your way through content? You probably can. Um, and it also depends how quickly you can develop your specialty ships because skipping the 63s certainly got a lot easier in 2025. The GS31 and the Relativity, both, each of them makes it very feasible. And then combining the two together, you're in pretty great shape. And add in the Vindicator if you happen to have that one too to help out with solo armadas. And as that ship comes along, that's also another feather in the cap for just cruising right through and skipping FKR ships. And you're like, my cube will catch up eventually down the road, and I'll save a lot of uncommon and especially a lot of rares in materials. As far as V'ger hostels, outposts, some of that other stuff, yeah, you might be punching down a little bit on outposts. V'ger hostels, I'm actually not so sure about because I was punching up earlier and doing just fine. There is a power jump significantly in V'ger hostels once you get to 68. 68 to 69 is doubled. 69 to 70 is doubled. 70 to 71 is doubled. So all of those wonderful things there will try to make things harder for you. But this is my Op 64 account. We're currently, I mean, if I don't have three miners and a relativity, we're over 1 billion total power, which is nice. We like to be there. Uh, GS31 is tier 12 at about 3 billion power. Couple components left to go. It's currently ops locked. This requires op 67 to go any further. Obviously, I can do a few more of these components and get a little bit more in terms of stat value to get it over like 3 billion power, a little bit extra damage. I've got a DPR of 800 million, so hits pretty good. And at tier 12, my beam is doing 4 billion when I'm zapping things. So uh, we were doing just fine earlier. We took it out. We were zapping FKR hostels as high as 67. Zap them, weaken them, and then just go in and punch and finish them off. And we were doing that in one round. So, certainly in terms of doing dailies and killing hostiles, I can punch up significantly with just that ship there. And if we're talking about warp range and distance in terms of, what can you reach and things like that, um, a cube 1179, an Enterprise, a G5 Epic, I think with Kirk maxed is just over 1200, like 1208, I think is the number. We can switch and find out. Yeah, 1208. So without the prototype tech on there that boosts warp range or the quantum slipstream, because that's a 200-day path to acquisition for most people through the augment store. Um, at 1200 here, you're basically only making it to the 63s and the 64 hazard system, but the 65s are 1250 and above. So this is where your G5 epic would kind of crap out. Now you can still get around that if you upgrade your eviscerator or you do the prime research on your discovery, and then you can summon your ship out there to do your grinding for you, which is certainly an option, and a lot of people will take that path if you are keeping progress and keeping up with those and using the away team alliance tournament store to do those um, prime valor tokens so you can upgrade the discovery. Had to think for there for a second. But the warp range and the GS31, I'm at 1400 at tier 12. And if I swap over to the relativity, also at tier 12, you know, my DPR is going down significantly, down to about 400 million, cutting it in half. But I do have a similar warp range, bigger warp range there, 1580. And 1580 actually gets me all the way to the 68s. 69s even. So the relativity could run me all the way out there. Now the relativity does not have hazard resistance, so that can make it a little more challenging, but the GS31 has got hazard resistance. Now that one's level capped. If you don't have the quantum slipstream, you're only going to be able to get to the 67s. But even still, the 67s is pretty solid in terms of getting out there. Somebody in chat mentioned you can just relocate and move your base too. You can, but that's not like that's a short-term solution. That's like I could understand putting up with that for like a week or two. I'm not going to relocate my base every single day for like 3 months just to do dailies, or every other day or whatever. For me personally, that would get very tedious very quickly. So while it is an option, we'll put that down towards the bottom of the list on like plan C or D in terms of relocating your base. But if we go back and look at, GS31, again, hitting a 68, not really taking a lot of hull damage. I mean, again, I beamed it, so I took very little hull health off it, but I also weakened it, and then I went through and killed a bunch of them. Somewhere in here earlier, I was also, this is GS31. I know I was using the relativity earlier too, probably before all these partials from the beams. Oh, I was using the relativity to kill my V'ger hostiles. That's what I was doing. And I was punching up on the 65s and taking very little damage. Let's go back and... Do I have to do my V'ger hostiles today? Let's look at my dailies. Yes, I haven't done my dailies yet. Okay, so we have to do some V'ger hostiles. So let's take the relativity out for a spin. Actually, let's start with the GS31. Let's just see what it does. It's Gorn today, right? It's easier to just get 2 of them this way. And we'll just take this crew and give it a shot. Itari, good to see you, bud. Hey. Thank you very much for the raid. So the 65s I can reach. Can I reach the 66s? All right, let's see what happens. Plan Z, there you go. Fight launched your first outpost. All right, good luck. Let us know how you do. The quantum slipstream is also available in the aggregation refinery if your recon locus is at least 61. Well, if you manage to get that building all the way to 61, meaning you're also all the way in G6, I guess that is some additional sourcing. I'm nowhere near that on my building, so that hasn't even occurred to me, but thank you for pointing that out, because that is a valid additional path for people to use to try and get that faster. So we're going to fly out there and see what happens. Red Zyrus, good to see you. Welcome on in. Hey, Napalm, by the way. Welcome to the stream tonight. Your GS31 died attacking the outpost? Interesting. Bob Taryn, good to see you. Welcome on in. Bob, you're in our alliance on 710 with Rev. Please be sure to keep shaming Rev for his, we'll call it lackluster performance in alliance tournaments and his failure to complete tasks. Figure if we all start ganging up on him, maybe he'll do better. Yeah, that's in the video, by the way. That's staying in the video. Ace, good to see you. Welcome on in. So what we were trying to do here, yeah, we were killing. I killed 65s fairly easily with the relativity. We're gonna go up and try the 66s with the GS31. If I need to, I'll switch ships and go back. But this could open up a whole new path, right? For players moving into G6 now, we're in the mid 50s thinking of moving into G6. Keeping up with your relativity and your GS31 and keeping them as high as you can possibly get them, you can definitely skip the 63s if you've been following. If you've got them moving along, they will replace those, no problem for you. And we're about to find out if you can at least postpone. Because I know I can kill 66 and 67 and 68 faction hostiles. Now we're going to see how these V'ger hostiles do, which is the new content that was just added here in January of 2026. To find out, can you skip the rares too? Now, granted, as we were talking about earlier, other things like, outposts might get a little harder. Might not be able to. You might have to punch down a little bit on those. Let's see what happens. We hit a 66. Now, again, I was doing them with the relativity earlier, so we'll see what the GS. Yeah, the GS31 did put a dent in this thing. Okay, let's switch. Let's just switch crews. I'm sorry, switch ships. And we'll take the relativity and we'll try a 66. But yeah, beaming does a little bit of damage, but it also applies that weakened state. So then you can come back through and pick them off a little bit easier afterwards. They're already weakened. Fight's only going one round. We're hitting them, doing enough damage. Well, I was expecting that. Surprised that didn't happen sooner, to be honest. BlueStacks and streaming don't typically go well together for me, anyway. It's just too much RAM, I think. On the plus side, by the time this loads back up, we'll probably be almost all the way out to our system. Okay. Jonathan Wick, good to see you. Voltron, good to see you. Welcome on in. Bob, thank you very much for resubscribing. 5 months now with Prime. Appreciate the support. Thank you for being here. Voltron wondering about Outpost events. The Outpost Pass did start today. They just happened to make it and change the event, so running an Outpost gives you bonus points to make the event easier to complete, but it's not a requirement, which is nice. So that way it's not as exclusive, and people who were upset about directive sourcing don't feel like they're left out and might miss an event because they haven't been able to source as many directives. Who knows how many other events have been changed for the Outpost Pass? That we'll just sort of have to wait and see. Tomorrow's event, very well, day two's event might require you to run an outpost, or it might have alternate scoring again, so you won't have to. All right, let's try a 66. Killed it. How did we do damage-wise? We took about half hull. So, all right, so punching up to a 66 currently is a little too much for me. Must be a big power jump here between the 65s and the 66s. Oh, you know what? It was the Hurok earlier, though. I was doing it this morning, so it was... Or last night? Yeah, I was doing the Hurok last night. And we were doing the 65s, and I really wasn't taking all that much hull health. But different hostiles obviously do different damage and do require different adjustments to the crew. But we could, honestly, a kill is what I get on my 69 account most of the time anyway. 2 per hull without any buffs or anything. So certainly workable to come out here 4 or 5 times unbuffed to get all the kills done. Okay, so that's a piece of content that we know is at least possible to do. And does the Relativity have any ops locks? I gotta go to stfc.space and check. Ships. Relativity. It has a tier 6 and a tier 11 bypass, and the tier 11 one you get from the store. But that's like a level 61 kind of thing, right? Tier 7 is 51, and tier 8 or tier 11 here is a 61 thing. This bypass lock for G5 you get at 51, and this bypass lock here you get at 61, I'm pretty sure. So once you get to Op 61, you can max the Relativity out. Like we said, I'm 12 out of 15, and I have some of the currency and materials, so I think this is a very viable strategy, and certainly one that I would recommend a lot of players who are going through G5 and are starting to think about, hey, what am I going to do when I get to G6? Skip the uncommons, and you might even be able to just skip past the rares. And then you're saving so much in terms of resources. Even with efficiencies, right? Let's just hypothetically speaking, we'll use my main account, which is 69, and the efficiencies there. We'll go into Spock's Club. And let's go to the cost calculator. If I were to build, we'll call it an Akira, because that's the first one that came to mind. Hypothetically speaking, you build an Akira. If you want to take it to tier 9 so you could upgrade your cube, you would be spending 3 million tritanium, 11,000 uncommon gas, 42,000 uncommon crystal, 10,000 rare crystals, 1,500 rare gas. Those are materials that you can save now, that you can now put into your buildings to help you move up faster. And if we were to go with, a Koskari, that's another popular one. This is a G6 rare. If you wanted to level this ship up and take this all the way to tier 9, again, keeping up with the cube, approximate values. You're talking about uncommons here, 80,000 gas, 16,000 ore, probably a little higher than that because I'm sure as 69 I have a few more efficiencies. But even if we call this, 85 and 17, excuse me, And then look at the rares. 19,000 rare gas, 3,500 rare ore, pardon me. My apologies. Little frog stuck there. But you're saving 19,000 rare gas. Again, assuming this is the ship you happen to pick, whatever your main stat is, you're going to spend, a good portion of it. So over 20,000 rare materials that you're going to save, and over 100,000 uncommon materials that you're going to save. That will let you devote those materials to your buildings instead. Because if we go with the relativity, it's not what I wanted. I wanted that. If you take the relativity, we'll say from tier 9 to tier 15 as you're moving in, or tier 10 rather. Because tier 11 is where you'd be, this is the G6 space, right? When you're going to cross into tier 11. So this is what you're looking for here. You've got it to tier 10. You're going to get that component to take it to tier 11 when you hit 61, and you're going to take it all the way to max. What are you spending? 22,000 gas, 7,000 uncommon ore. A fraction of what you would spend on something else. 5,000 rare, 1,700 rare. So 5,000 and 2,000, we'll say. 5,500 and 2,000. A fraction of the materials that you would need. So you're saving a significant amount, because rare materials in G6 are a big bottleneck for sure. And you're also saving ship parts too, because you'll notice here you're only using the specialty parts with the charged capacitors and the static. There's no interceptor ship parts or anything like that that you also have to worry about, which means you're just going to have an even bigger stockpile for when you do pick that 70 epic ship and build that. Because you're going to have spent nothing. It cost you nothing to make that move. And yes, you are also saving some Sigma Titanium. Not, you're saving a chunk for sure. You are saving a chunk of that for sure. So, I think that certainly is the strategy I plan on taking on this account, going through the game the second time. The cube will catch up. With the amount of ship sourcing between daily refineries and now GS31 and relativity parts are both in the Ferengi stores. It's certainly allowing players to expedite that growth. Again, the GS31 does have an ops cap at 67 that will stop you from getting the last couple of tiers. But the relativity, once you hit 61, it's smooth sailing. So I think that's a good strategy for moving forward, and hopefully that helps you guys too.